Hi everybody. For this lecture, we're going to talk about calculating GPA. It's not quite as straightforward as just averaging your grades because it's weighted upon credit hours. So that's an important piece, right? If I get an A in a 1-credit class, but I get a D in a 4-credit class, that D is going to outweigh that A, and so it won't just be averaging the A and the D. So it's almost better to describe it as a grade point average per credit hour. And this, once we're done with this, there's a GPA calculation assignment that really the hope is for you to kind of understand where you stand and how to get back into good standing. That's an important thing to know. So grade points, right? UW defines the grade points with the following scale. I think a lot of us are familiar with A being a 4.0, a B being a 3.0, and so on and so forth down the line. But this breaks it down with the pluses and minuses. And so it's important to see here, right, that benchmark of the C at the 2.0. If you get a C minus, right, that's a 1.667. That's below that standard. And it's all based off of what's required for graduation. Some degree programs even require higher than a 2.0, but 2.0 is the minimum to graduate with a degree from UW. So that's kind of where that benchmark comes from. D's are tricky, right? It's important. A D earns you credit for the course, even a D minus. But it's not going to get you back into good standing. And for many degree programs, they require a C or better. So D's are tricky. But so here we have a thing called quality points. And so what quality points are grade points times the credit hour. So for example, if I took English 1010 and I got a C, right, that's a 2.0 on the grade points times a 3-credit hour course, that gets me 6 quality points. This will become a little more clear in a moment. To get my grade point average, I take my total quality points and I divide it by credit hours. So here's an example of what it looks like on your transcript, and we'll even have a couple screenshots in a minute, and I'd encourage all of you to access your transcript through your WYO Records portal. To do that, all you have to do, log on to WYO Records from your welcome page, click on Student Records, click on Transcripts, click on Unofficial Transcripts, and hit Submit, and your unofficial transcript will show up on the screen. You'll have to do that for the assignment. So maybe write down those instructions so you can access your transcript. But here's an example of a semester, right? So let's say this was my fall semester, this past fall. I took Econ 1010, right? Macroeconomics. I took Life 1010, General Bio. I took Psych 1000. I took Math 1400, the college algebra course. And I took PEAC 1001, right? That's a 1-credit physical health class. And so those are my grades there, right? And I have the credit hour breakdown. And then I see that quality points, right, like we just discussed. So I take the grade point. For example, I take my D plus, which was a 1.333, and I multiply it by 4, the credit hours, and I get that 5.32 number for quality points. So I add up all my credit hours, right? I see that it's 14, and I add up all my quality points, and I get 18.32. So then I divide that, right? Like we saw on the previous slide, I see 1.308 grade point average. And so that placed me on academic probation. And so here's a screenshot straight from WYO Records. So this is what yours will look like in this format. And you can see this example. The student was taking, right, computer info systems, global economic issues, down the line. And this is a great example because the credit hours vary. We can see, though, so this student got 2 grades of a B in both the computer info systems and the life science for elementary schools. Now, this is a great example to see that it's weighted by credit hour, because one of these Bs was in a 3 credit hour class and one was in a 1 credit hour class. And if we look over to the quality points column, we see the difference. That B in the computer class gets 9 quality points, where that B in the life science class only gets 3. And so then we add all those up, right? And we see that this student had 23.001 quality points, 14 GPA hours. We can do that arithmetic, and we see that's a 1.643. Now, there's one other important thing for you to be aware of, and this doesn't have any basis on academic standing, but it does affect financial aid and scholarships and things like that. If we look here on your transcript, we see attempted hours versus passed hours. And so because this student got an F in their general biology class, they only passed 10 of their 14 attempted hours, right? So that gives them a completion percentage of 71.43. Financial aid wants you to stay above 67%, so this student's okay. So be sure to take a look at your transcript, see what your completion percentage is. That's an important piece to the puzzle. So here's another example from WIO Records, different scenario. This one is a little more complex, right? So we take a look at the W. So here's an example of a student who withdrew from the class. They withdrew from their equine nutrition and physiology class. So this gets us 0 quality points. But we also look and we see that it's not figured into the GPA hours. So I've circled here the 4 credit hours for the livestock production, and I'll explain that in a minute. The 3 for the class that was withdrawn from, and the 3 for Math 921. Now, all of these credit hours are not included in the GPA hours for different reasons. The withdrawal makes them not included, and that's how a withdrawal does not affect your grade point average. The 4 credit hours for the livestock production, if we see that letter E to the right, that means that it's excluded. And so that tells the computer not to look at that. And that means that later on in this student's career, they retook that class. If we come down and we look at the 3 for the math class, that's because that's not a college level math class. We see it's 921, and there's a little period next to the grade for C. So none of those figure into the grade point average. So if we look, the grade point average is just made up of the ones highlighted in green. The 2 credits for the Ag Econ 1000 course, the 3 credits for the Econ 1200 course. And so if we look down there and we see 5 GPA hours, 7 quality points, that's our grade point average. And so when you're looking at your transcript, you might have a variety of these things going on, a withdrawal or maybe a math class that's not college level. So hopefully this kind of covered all the scenarios so that you can understand your transcript. Certainly if you have any questions, feel free to email me. This stuff's pretty complex, and definitely everybody's situation is slightly different. So the main goal to this GPA assignment is for you to figure out what you need to do to get back on track. And so take a look at the assignment. There's lots of stuff on there, lots of examples. And here's one of the examples, right? This is exactly the formula that I want you to use. And I hope that the assignment's pretty clear. If you're confused at all, shoot me an email, give me a call. I'm happy to walk you through it. But so here we look at, and hopefully you have the assignment next to you. On the first page of the assignment, all we do is calculate the fall GPA. That's done for you on your transcript. So you're pretty much just copying things off of your transcript onto there. On the second page is where it gets a little crazy. The first question is, are you retaking any courses? So take a look at that. Are you or are you not retaking any classes? In my example here, right, I have an example spring schedule on the screen of Religion 1000, Math 1400, Political Science 1000, English 1010, and then this class, the Academic Success Skills class, UWYO 1105. So Math 1400 in my example is a repeat. And so that makes a big difference. As we learned in the previous lecture, repeating a class is a great idea, right? It's going to replace the previous grade. So the next question on the assignment says, what are your previous quality points? So you can take a look at that, and you can see on the first page of the assignment, I have a little superscript A and a superscript B. We want to just take those and insert those here, right? But then we want to subtract any quality points from courses that are being retaken, and subtract any GPA hours, right? And that's where it gets a little tricky. If you're not repeating anything, this should be pretty straightforward. And so then just fill in the spots there. Take a calculator, do the arithmetic, the B plus C, right? And then multiply that times D, and then subtract A, and that's going to get you E. And what E is, and this is a little confusing, but E is the quality points that you need this spring to get back in good standing. So quality points, that might not mean very much to you, right? Grade point average, that means a little more. So if you take your E, your value for E, and divide it by the credit hours that you're going to take this spring, that'll give you, like I have on the screen, a yellow number. And so for my example student, they need to get a 2.477 in the spring to get back in good standing. And so I created a goal with my spring schedule. I looked and I said, okay, if I get a B in religion, if I get a C in my college algebra class, and that's a retake, that C is going to replace the previous F. And I go down the line, right, I figure out that goal, which I feel like that's realistic for me to get 2 C's, 2 B's, and a B minus, that's going to get me where I need to go. That's going to get me back in academic good standing. I'll pass my English class with a C or better. And so that's really the hope for this assignment.